Good morning, friends. Thanks for being here this morning for Journey Home Meditation's morning sit. Sometimes we read a little poetry. Sometimes we do a little bit of contemplation together and some breathing. So if that's what you're here for, then welcome. I'm Michael, and I am happy to be here this morning. So many things have been happening recently, so I haven't made the time to get in here with the ability to share this practice with you all very often, and for that, I do feel sorry. I feel a little like there might be something missing in my days, and I'm starting to recognize that I carry a lot of sadness just in general. Um, I think I have for a very long time. Uh, and this doesn't mean that I am always feeling like expressing sadness, right? I also carry happiness. I also carry, um, I carry all of the things. We all do. Each of us do. Um, but I'm starting to recognize that what's different for me now is that in some way I am prepared when the sad comes. I feel secure in who I am, even with the sad. Now, this doesn't mean I'm always secure. Sometimes I do have insecurities. Sometimes I wake up and I wonder, um, when things are going to start to change, when we're going to see um, shift, when I'm going to see shift. Because I have periods, just like any of us, where you get into the doldrums, right? You get into the doldrums, and that can be disruptive if we aren't in a stable and safe place. So it begins with safety, I think. I think that when we're talking about being able to handle any shift or change in our lives, whether it is internal or external, whether it is a change of thought and thought patterns, or a change of beliefs, or a change of emotional expression, or changes in our physical body, changes in our physical world, our home or our job, our relationships, all of these things. Um, if we are not in a safe space to absorb that, then it's going to be very difficult. And I don't think that a safe space only is in reference to a home. That's helpful. But really, I think that what we're talking about here is having that internal safety, that internal space, because I've had security in my life that uh, I had a home, I had food, I had people that I lived with that loved me, and still I could not find a feeling of contentment or safety inside of myself. And I started using a lot of drugs. I started drinking. I started seeking sex and doing all of the things that would take me away from that internal space of not feeling safe. Um, It's not that the drugs made me feel safe, but they made me feel in control. I could be in control of how I felt. I knew with this drug I would feel this way, with this one I would feel this way. I knew with alcohol I could feel this certain way, so I could have a level of control. And control is what we exert when we don't have safety, when we don't have uh, trust. We use control. And I think in my life, I'm starting to recognize all of the ways in which I have learned to attempt to control situations, whether it's relationships, work, art, expression, wherever it is. I find ways that I try to have some exertion of control over the outcome. I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a controlling person, but that's not up to me to decide. But I'm recognizing that I have tendencies to feel disappointed when I was not prepared for an outcome. And I think that this is common amongst people with PTSD, that when we don't have knowledge of an outcome, it can become upsetting on one level, it can become terrifying uh, on another, depending upon the situation and where you are in that moment. Especially if you're a person who struggles with being able to handle certain levels of stress, different types of stress based upon trauma that you may have experienced in your life or unprocessed trauma that you may still carry. Um, so I found that there are times when small levels of control are sort of my go-to. Um, and this isn't always a defense mechanism. This is also a particular way of approaching expression, approaching art, approaching the way that I cook. Um, so I don't want to treat these things that I'm exploring here as if they're negatives or if they're as if they're some kind of a flaw, a character flaw. There are really perfectly good reasons for almost any behavior that I can think of. Not that we need to excuse the behaviors, but we need to understand what our motivations are. And I think I'm finding that when there was not safety in my life, whether in my home or in my body, inside of my own mind, my own emotions, my own body, I would use control as a way to mitigate the possible harm that might come. And I'm starting to find that I am far less interested in that tendency when it arises in me. It doesn't mean that I don't go there. It means that I'm starting to find feelings that this is not me. This is not the way that I would like to be thinking or feeling about a situation in the moment. And I'm starting to understand that I do have a choice in that. And I do have a certain level of agency when it comes to my emotions, my feelings, my expressions, and how much I buy into those things, how much I put stock into my own thoughts versus in the past when I would have a behavior, I would, well, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. This is a common theme that we see in our culture. And then we say things like, well, that's just how I am. You know how I am. You know how I am. But it's not how I am. It's how I be. It's just how I be. And I can be different. It doesn't mean that I am different. It doesn't mean that I'm betraying some deep part of who I am by changing a behavior or relating differently to an internal feeling. It means that I am recognizing my vastness, how large I can be, and that I have more space. I have more options. There's a spaciousness, and I'm working on that. There's no level of perfection with anything that I do. There's no level of perfection, I think, with any of us. But there is this willingness to engage with the process of becoming. That's a lot of big words. It sounds a little clunky. Willingness to engage with the process of becoming. It just means that I'm okay with questioning myself at this point. And I think that's because I found a certain level of safety. I don't have a need to control the outcomes. I have more of an interest in seeing where this is going to go, seeing where this is going to take me, right? Like open to the possibilities. And when we're opening to the possibilities, we are releasing ourselves from defensiveness. We're dropping our guard. And this is the beginnings of love, right? When we are willing to drop our guard, our defensiveness, when we are letting down our controlling stance based in fear, we are opening ourselves to deeper love. We are opening ourselves to a deeper experience of love. And I think that's what it means when I think about preparedness now. It's different than what it used to be. And there's a good example. The reason this is coming up for me today is I woke this morning and, our power system in our house, the electricity, I should say, in our house, uh, is an off grid system. And we share it with some other folks. And we are all running off of solar panels, and there is a hydro system that should be functioning at this point, but I'm not sure what's happening with that. But at any rate, we have to use generators to sort of back it up, and that you can only get so far on a battery system with generators. And so some nights it's charged when we go to bed, and then by the time we wake up, for whatever reason, the batteries have been depleted. So this morning was one of those mornings. So I woke up, and I actually kind of enjoy these mornings. I'm not gonna lie. I think that um, I'm tending towards having this be my standard morning practices. I lit I light candles all around the house. I light candles. And that's how I maneuver through the house. That's how I wash my face, brush my teeth, um, do my morning exercises if I'm doing them that day. Um, and I sat down to meditate a little bit this morning. And as I did, I see out the window that the snow is starting to come down. And immediately I had all these thoughts about, well, that's not right. Why is that happening? Why is there snow? It's only November. Oh my God! Doesn't I mean? What are we going to do about this? Where are we prepared? Do we have enough wood? Do we have? I don't have the right tires on my car. Oh man, I should have done that. I should have done this. Oh man, I can't believe I put it off so much. But yada 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 yada. You go on and on with the ways that you quickly turn a moment of wonder, wow, look at that snow, into a moment of fear, and then a moment of blame, and a moment of shame, and then you're feeling guilty. And then I recognized it right away. No, look at that snowfall. It's exactly what it's meant to do right now. It's doing what it's supposed to do. Why do I think that things aren't supposed to be going this way? Because there is something here for it. This is a natural result of where things have been heading. And if that's not something that you're wanting to deal with, then you have to change some of the parameters. You have to make some of those changes. And so I just went back and I sat, and instead of closing my eyes for a closed eyed meditation practice, I just watched the sun for a little bit. I'm sorry, I watched the snow for a little bit. And then I forgot. I got up and I did my morning thing. And my son and I were leaving to drive into town, and the snow got really heavy as we were walking out. It started to accumulate, and it was already at about an inch at that point, which is a pretty quick accumulation for less than an hour. And so as we're driving in, I recognize, oh, we need to go back and we need to get clothes. We need to prepare ourselves for maybe the next couple of days not being able to drive home if this snowstorm continues. So we turn around and we do all that. And it got me thinking, how much preparedness do I need? How much do I need to prepare for all these things? And what level am I already prepared? As I was sitting there and starting to go into the blame and shame and panic mode for just a moment, just a brief moment. I mean, it was seconds uh, over the snow. I had the tools in my disposal to use to bring myself right back to the moment. I started to breathe. I started to be in wonder and awe of the snow. I started to see things as they are instead of as I wish they were not, or as I any of those things. So I was prepared for that moment. And it didn't mean that I didn't have panic. It means that when I did, I could come back to a place of safety really quickly. And so I think that this practice is a practice of preparedness. It's preparing ourselves the way that we prepare an altar, the way that we prepare a meal, right? This nourishing thing. We put tenderness, we clean the table, we wipe down all of the serving trays, we set the table with clean, beautiful dishes. We recognize what we're going to use and what we're not, and we prepare the space. And then we bring the food that we've lovingly prepared. And then we hold space for just a moment to sit in that wonder, like watching the snow in the morning sun coming through my window. It's a beautiful thing when you see light coming through snowflakes. There's a moment of wonder. That's preparing. That's being prepared. And so I think about that with this practice and how much in my life I have felt unprepared and terrified, and how much I have used my lack of safety inside of myself as an excuse to control or to exert and express anger or disappointment or fear. And I'm grateful today for this practice, and I'm going to continue practicing it. So, thanks for being here. I wonder where you are with fear and safety and control and preparedness. Where are you in your practice of recognizing the space that you're preparing for yourself? The Buddha talked a lot about preparedness, but the way he talked about preparedness was around death. Prepare yourself for your death. And the way that the Buddha talks and teaches about how to prepare ourselves for our death is to release all of these things in this life right now. Let go of your sense of control. You know, Famously, when Mara, who is distraction, came to the Buddha and said, who is your witness? Who is your witness for this enlightenment? You think that you've got something special? Who's your witness? And Buddha famously put their hand on the earth and said, this is my witness. Being here, exactly where I am, that's my witness. And I feel prepared today. So prepare yourself a warm cup of tea or coffee or some other nice winter beverage, and sit for just a moment. Be prepared to be in awe today. Be prepared to let go of your control. Be prepared to wonder what will happen next. That's the only teaching I can find for myself in this moment, is just to prepare myself to be in awe. So let's find our meditation posture just for a moment. We can come together and share these few breaths. It is a sacred thing, I think, when we can slow down enough to feel the breath entering our body. So listen to the sound of the bell. Moving into our meditation posture, we are finding that place, seeking balance in our body, our mind, our emotional body, our thought body. Breathing in through the nose to the bottom of the belly. And release. Breathe fully on this next breath. Really allow yourself to stretch as you're filling the belly, filling the lower back, the upper back, the chest. Breathing in. And release. And one more. And release. Find your practice. Prepare your space. Use intention instead of control. You'll carry your sadness, you'll carry your fear, you'll carry your love and your joy. You'll carry all of that. So just understand what you are carrying and what you are giving. Find the balance. Hadi